I usually play with friends, but we all moved across the country after graduating, and I still wanted to play D&D in person, so I joined a local group. Campaign was on the dark and gritty side of things, but it was mostly pretty fun at first. Unfortunately, that didn't last. I was playing an Oath of Devotion paladin, barely straight-laced, very much a traditional, lawful good type character. The party had just arrived in a border town, and was waiting on a courier when my paladin sees a thug dragging a young elf girl into an alleyway. Obviously, I decided to follow him. The DM then proceeds to describe the thug, forcing the girl against the wall, and blah, 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 not good. I've heard enough. I decide to attack. One smite later, the thug is dead. The DM turns to me and says, smugly, that my paladin instantly feels his power dissipate, despite him having, 4 levels in Fighter 2. His justification was that the country we were in was racist towards elves, so they had no legal rights. So, this criminal wasn't committing any crimes by assaulting her, so my paladin had just murdered a guy and thus was no longer lawful.
At last, we have arrived in Mordor, the domain of Sauron. I will use my divine powers to smite the wicked and bring justice to this evil place. And why is my smite? Is there something wrong with you? My smite! I'm trying to smite the wicked, and nothing's happening.
Oh yeah, your powers aren't gonna work here, dude.
What?
Yeah, we're in a valley of evil. Your powers are based on the law. And here, the law of the land is disorder, chaos, and generally being an absolute dick. So therefore, powers aren't gonna work at all. Sorry, man.
That doesn't make any... Okay. No matter. I still have my blade and my skills as a warrior. I don't need my powers to slay evil.
Oh, yeah, your skills as a warrior have been taken from you too.
Wait, what?
I protest that A, lawful good does not mean blindly following laws, and B, that's not how paladin oaths work, but the dungeon master wouldn't budge, so I decided to just leave that table. Great move! This is not at all the kind of group you'll want to stick around for. I already made fun of the whole lawful thing earlier, but don't think I forgot what the DM was trying to justify with this whole shenanigan. Cause yeah, I didn't forget. It's still absolutely gross. Don't worry about me though, I've seen grosser. I attended an official Dungeons & Dragons event at a local game store with a friend from my then current game and a buddy of his from out of town who had never tried D&D before. We came by to take part in a bespoke all bards one-shot, and when we got to the table, the dungeon master asked us to take out our character sheets and get started. Problem was, we hadn't made characters. No one had. It was supposed to be an introductory game for new players. It had not been advertised that we were expected to come prepared. A bit time sink to make them on the spot, but no big deal, right? Wrong. The DM immediately loses it and walks away cursing. Why do people think that's going to end well? Acting like this at the slightest inconvenience isn't going to get you anywhere, man. Another organizer jumped in and told us to go ahead and make our characters, and the dungeon master will be back in a minute. We go ahead and do so, still sticking with the all bards theme, but apparently the DM had a reputation for pulling this kind of stunt. My game buddy knew it and prepared accordingly. This was in the 3.5 days, so we all had unique builds for our bard. I made a funny spoof character named Ezrael Jones, an archaeologist. Oh, I get the reference. Anyway, yeah, he's a bard archer that buffs only himself by humming the theme to Indiana Jones whenever he needs to roll. My buddy, on the other hand, made a disgustingly busted dual-wielding whip trip build that could completely shut down opponents at range. The DM returned with a new battle map and a snarky smirk. He had us place our minis around a caravan at the edge of an arid badland setting, and we were immediately ambushed by 20 kobolds. Most of us had built social characters, obviously, so we were pretty much guaranteed to all die, which is what the DM wanted, to punish us for not being prepared ahead of time. What a class act. I rolled high initiative and got to go first, so I started humming my tune and ran forward to get in range of the enemies. Before I can make an attack, a kobold jumps in out of the brush, no perception roll, and shoots me with a poison dart. I'm hit with the sickened condition with no save that apparently makes me lose all actions on my turn, and I can only move half speed until it goes away. You know, I don't know much about 3.5, but prone, shaken, sickened. I think he made some changes. It goes away eventually, just when the DM feels like it. So for the rest of the combat, I do literally nothing but get attacked and somehow not die. I tried to make the most of it, narrating how I dodged the jaws of leaping sand sharks by puking down my shirt and it's sliding away with a cartoon slip sound. But whenever it's my turn, the DM asks me what I do and I tell him I'm still sickened, so nothing. Somehow, this pisses him off every time, but that's the only response I'm capable of giving, so what did he expect? Man got mad at you for being crippled by him.
You fool. You're a disgrace in every way. What are you talking about? I'm talking about why you didn't just run away while I was trying to kill you. Dude! You completely crippled my ability to escape from you. Crippled your ability. I think that's a bit of an over-exaggeration, okay? You were perfectly capable. You chopped off my leg!
2 seconds earlier.
Get over here! So that's why you have the cane. Makes sense. Yeah, I make a pretty good point, right? Make a pretty good. Whoa, come on!
When my buddy finally gets into combat, he started pulling his shenanigans. Quip the kobold, free trip attempt with crazy high bonus, free attack of opportunity when they fall, etc., etc. It was wild, and would have made for a really fun turn of the tide. The DM, though, glares daggers at him from across the table. Face red, steam practically pouring out of his ears, and after 15 seconds of furious silence, he just says no. We had been playing this little death trap revenge fantasy of his for about an hour and a half, trying in good faith to make the best of a crappy situation, but when he just refused to let my buddy just play the game, we all just got up and left. The other organizer caught us at the door and apologized, telling us the guy was in a bad mood, yada yada yada, but it doesn't matter. We were done. I don't know if my buddy's friend ever played again, but to be honest, I wouldn't blame him if he didn't. Look, I've been in a bad mood before, and it sucks. But when your bad mood starts negatively affecting everyone else, you have to take responsibility for that. I was recently in a work environment where, unfortunately, some mental health issues I was dealing with started seeping into my attitude. I felt way more dejected, I wasn't as enthusiastic, and people noticed that. And while I think their response wasn't ideal, I still did apologize because at the end of the day, what I was going through was affecting other people. Here, the DM is the problem, but also the organizers. I mean, if you're hosting an official event, you have a responsibility to be a good host. This is different from just a casual D&D game. You have a responsibility to the people attending your event, a responsibility to deal with DMs like this who ruin the experience for your customers. I mean, God, this guy has a rep for acting like this and is still allowed to attend? Unbelievable. This is doubly bad because this guy is dealing with new players where you need a degree of patience. I mean, heck, I don't think experienced players would have patience enough to deal with this dude. Bad form on the DM and the organizers. Earlier this year, I was supposed to play in the campaign of Curse or Strahd, if the username was any indication. However, some drama got in the way of that, and in hindsight, it's pretty funny, so here I am to regale you the tale of how and why I didn't get to play Curse or Strahd. Some names for our players. The Dungeon Master is the Dungeon Master. Duh. Barb!
Mission failed. We'll get him next time.
Gone, but not forgotten. It's short for Barbarian. Me and her played in a campaign together before. This info is important. Art, short for Artificer, another player who told me some additional details after the fact. Fiend, not player, but still in the D&D server, and happened to hear some choice tid from the Dungeon Master. In the beginning, all was well. I was one of the first people the Dungeon Master asked to join. I hadn't played D&D since a previous group had fallen apart, so getting to play again was really exciting. And it was gothic horror? Heck yeah, sign me up. I was all ready and had the perfect character for the game, an Oathbreaker paladin with an obsession with dark magic. I was so hyped to play her. However, before we get to our character sheets, the Dungeon Master senses all player consent forms. Now I'm totally cool with this, especially for something dark and gritty like Curse of Strahd. The first issue was that this wasn't Curse of Strahd specific in terms of content warnings. It was a general form that just had most, if not all, uncomfortable topics you could run into a campaign. So not exactly a great start, but okay. The DM had mentioned wanting to play this accurately, and that this was not going to be a game for the faint of heart. That's fine, I love a spot of guts and gore in my gothic horror games. One of our players dropped after hearing how gritty and edgy this Curse of Strahd game was going to be, and frankly, more power to her. This also means we had 4 players instead of 5, which was okay, but the DM wanted a party of 5, which again, not a problem. But then, I got a message from the DM. Hey, can I add Barb in? Like, would you be comfy with that? See, Barb and I had a history, as I alluded to previously. So, of course, I just go, yeah, sure, I don't see the issue. Because I was a massive people pleaser at the time. Still trying to break that habit, unfortunately. In reality, there was an issue. I hadn't spoken to Barb since our old group dissolved, and all the drama that came with. That's a different story, though. In short, I was scared Barb hated me because we didn't leave off on good terms. Oh well, I could still play the campaign with her. It's fine. It's fine. No one wants revenge.
Fool! Your barbarian has returned. I bring the destruction of your D&D game!
Another red flag in hindsight came in the form of the DM saying that there would be no leniency for my mental health getting in the way of sessions, and that they won't be pausing to let me decompress if I get overwhelmed, which, that's fine. I'm not expecting to be accommodated in every game I play in. I'll just have to deal with it. It's fine. Everything's fine. They did repeat this boundary of theirs multiple times, saying that they won't stop for me and that I'll have to manage, which I found a bit weird, but I know I can be forgetful at the best of times, so I figured the repetition was just so I don't forget by game time. Oh yeah, did I mention we haven't even started this campaign yet? No? Well, the campaign never starts, if you want an indication of where this is going. The third strike was when I got a message from the Dungeon Master.
Hey, are you sure you're gonna be okay in Curse of Strahd? Yeah, why wouldn't I be? Well, some of the players are, worried about you. They don't think you'll be able to handle it. No, I'm pretty sure I'll be fine. I know what I'm getting into. By the way, who said that?
Oh, sweet Seluna above. That was the worst thing to say, but anyway.
I can't say that.
I don't remember the exact words, but I do remember getting anxious and pestering them about it. To be fair, if it was another player that had the issue, foreshadowing, I'd like to talk it out with them. Let them know I'm going to be okay, so we don't go into the game with awkward footing. Eventually the DM confessed it was Barb who was concerned, and that they were even so gracious as to offer to mediate the conversation while Barb and I sort our campaign concerns out with each other. I should note, I thought the issue was that I wouldn't be able to handle the content of the campaign. I only have a couple of squicks, remember this for later actually, so it should be no problem. And I said as much in the group chat DM made for Barb and I. The content was not the problem. Now, while I can't recite the whole rant Barb went on for guidelines' sake, I can give you lovely readers the skinny. Basically, Barb said how much of a terrible player and person I was, how I hogged the spotlight, how I couldn't handle our previous campaign, let alone Curse of Strahd. Also, she didn't want to see me ruin this game too, or hurt her friends any further. The friends in question are our mutuals, friends that I'm still good friends with, believe it or not. It was bad to say the least. Though luckily for me, the mental preparation for the campaign came in handy after all. I managed to stay calm enough to defend myself from the bad player allegations and tell her to screw off in regard to the previous campaign that fell apart. Well, like what happened? Like is there a TLDR? Cause I'm curious. However, my strength didn't last long. I asked the DM in direct messages if they thought I would last. I got the most plastic, polite, no, sorry, I have ever read and decided to drop the campaign. Too tired of this crap to care about what I was missing out on. That's it, that's the end, right? But wait, there's more. There's still 2 whole characters to introduce. So some time passes and I'm recounting the above to some friends, Art and Fiend, and the 2 of them join with some details I didn't know from before. Art was another player, and they told me that the Dungeon Master had, around the time they messaged me, Strike 3, asked them if I would last a session. That's the DM's words. The DM then pressured Barb into her insane rant in my general direction. Holy crap, if they didn't want me as a player, why be so unnecessarily complex? Way to make a worse situation by trying to avoid a mildly uncomfortable chat. Fiend chimed in, and oh boy, remember how I said I only had a couple squicks? One of those things is discussions of pregnancy. Oddly specific. I didn't expect it to even come up, but I made sure the Dungeon Master knew about it when we got those forms. Apparently, according to Fiend, DM had offhandedly mentioned that we could have gotten a good ending if this person didn't have a squick about it. The good ending in question was to give Strahd an heir by impregnating. What? That's the good ending? What is this? Twilight? Look, I saw the original puppet for that vampire Twilight baby. That cannot be a good ending, man. Art's player character was the other option for this, according to the Dungeon Master, and Art was heavily against it, albeit for unrelated reasons that are not mine to recount. Then there was the plan to kill my character. Less a plan and more an expectation that my player character would die. Fiend explained that this optional murder house side quest was going to stress test the team and pick off the weak players, one of which was predicted to be my paladin. Weak. Right. DM thought my player character would be too stupid to survive, based on some jokes I'd made about her previously. DM, as far as I could tell, just didn't like my choice of player character, and instead of talking to me about it like a normal human being, devised a stress test to kill my character off and force me to use a backup. DM, after I told them that I'm dropping Cursor Strahd, offered to run a one-on-one game for me as consolation. Yeah, I turned that down too. Anyway, that's the end for reals. Thanks for reading. Gotta say, I'm morbidly curious as to what happened in that last game, but yeah, there is a lot going on with this one. First and foremost, simple inability to just tell someone what your problem is. Look, if you don't want someone in your game for whatever reason, that's okay. But they have a right to know the actual reason. Coercing someone into going into an unhinged rant just so that you don't have to talk to a person is absolutely ridiculous. It's the Dungeon Master who has the problem. I don't know how much of a problem Barb has with this person. Maybe this writer really is a horrific spotlight hog. But if that concerns you, you gotta tell them directly, like as the DM. Of course, that is jumping into the what is true dimension. The idea of creating a stress test to kill characters, though, that's crazy. I do stress test my players. I want to check what their combat prowess is, and a cold, open, difficult combat is a good way to do that. But my goal isn't to kill anyone. It's literally a test. The point is to test, not the stress part. God, amateur DMing on this guy's part. I just finished watching all the videos on your channel and thought, okay, I have some horror stories. This one is relatively tame compared to the ones I watch on your channel, but still. Thanks, by the way, for watching all of our videos. That's not an easy feat these days. So it happened 12 years ago, so I forgot most of the details, but still, the main points remain. It was a cock one-shot. So I'll call the people by their character professions in the game, the first one being Cop, the most experienced player, Butcher, a relatively new player that played in our campaign for the last 4 months, Painter, she had been playing with us for 2 years, and Keeper, our Dungeon Master for the one-shot. It was their first time DMing, and the problem of the story. So Keeper was an experienced player with 10 years as a player under her belt, and decided to DM for us the first time when we used to play Mutants and Masterminds. At the time, playing with a new DM and a different system sounded like a good idea, and could let our usual DM, Cop, finally play, which was rare. The problem is, Keeper was a horror-obsessed girl who had the philosophy of horror needed to be uncomfortable and disturbing, not necessarily scary, and we've been playing for a long time. Our newest player has been with us for 4 months. So in terms of rulings, she did okay, but had some mistakes, though nothing of note that would cause a horror story. The problem is her view on horror, because knowing the players well and being friends with all of them, she decided the best way to create discomfort, you know, the type she deemed necessary for great horror movies, games, shows, books, etc., well, the best way was extreme gore and accurate descriptions of it, but also bringing the real fears of players. Like, for example, one player had arachnophobia, she would put giant spiders and describe them in detail. And remember, she didn't do a session 0 to know the player's boundaries and safety tools for the players in the end of session. I guarantee every player was mad at her and scolded her regardless of their safety concerns. Dang, all that's diabolical. Ramsay Bolton would be proud. The Keeper from the story was me. Oh, don't flame me alive. Okay, look, I didn't mean what I said. Look, it's been 12 years. I'm a forever DM that almost exclusively DMs horror campaigns, but unlike the old me, I have a session 0, and even session 0 is midway through the campaign for safety tools, safe words, cards to my players who don't feel comfortable speaking their discomfort. Now they can point things out, and I'll stop or slow down depending on the card they point at. With even horror discomfort, there's a right and safe way to do it. Look, a big part of this channel is that you can always choose to be better. Yeah, this DM had some diabolical business going on, but it's been 12 years. Look, sometimes discomfort, anger, fear, those things are fun in fiction. I mean, it's part of why we go to horror movies, to get scared. But that bleed can be dangerous. Exploiting phobias is an absolute no-go. Like I said earlier, downright diabolical. But this person decided to be better. They decided to change, to run games that make people feel safe. Still afraid, yes, I'm sure, but still to a fun degree. Discomfort is cool in moderation. Overuse of it, though, it's just gonna make things downright unfun. Our game started up a couple months ago with me and a couple of regulars that I had grown close to at a game shop deciding to play Dungeons & Dragons during the summer since I had just graduated high school and now had quite a bit of free time on my hands. The first problem player is actually another guy that I went to school with. We met at our school's gaming club in my junior year, his senior year. He played as a half-elven ranger. The second problem player was a 32-year-old weeb who pretty much embodies the stereotype of a horny bard, but in a much more cringy and socially awkward way. And of course, he ended up playing a horny dragonborn bard with a bunch of anime flavor, which was admittedly kinda cool. Now we get to the girl in question that the two meatheads were fighting over. She was a close friend of mine who was in film club with me in senior year and had just graduated high school as well. So I mentioned to her about the D&D group and she was happy to join. She played a moon druid, I was playing as a fighter. Before we could get started with the game though, the two guys were clearly smitten and both players would bring their feelings for her into the game. Weeb would do the simpy milady type way, usually by using himself as a human shield, including at times when his hit points were way too low. He actually died twice doing this, and it put the party in a precarious situation a couple of times.
Your end is near. Yeah, come on. I'd like to see what you get back. I will protect you, my lady, at any cost. Really? Really? Seriously, I told you don't need to do this. I'm perfectly capable of defending myself. Besides, you have like 2 hit points left. It doesn't matter. I am deeply in love with you. I mean, I know we met 2 days ago, but still, I am deeply in love with you, and I will give my life for yours and give it the— Oh my god! Unbelievable. Pulling that in this action economy.
Obviously no one, especially film club girl, liked this, nor did she like that this over-the-top in and out-game romantic gesture would come just out of the blue, like the guy would randomly bring her flowers. He just didn't seem to get she was not interested. Gamer Club guy had the bad boy a-hole flirt type about him in-game and out-of-game instead. It was equally unsavory. He flirted like a guy who just watched the wrong type of dating coach on YouTube and thinks being a dick is attractive. Bro, what's even the crossover on dating coach content to D&D stuff? It can't be a high crossover, right? We're looking at an endangered species. He was also really aggressive towards Weeb's character, both in-game and out-game. He called Weeb Dollar Store Leonardo DiCaprio, and yeah, he actually thought that was super funny, in reference to the age gap and to imply that he is ugly. It all came to a head when Gamer Club guy, still a ranger, decided to PvP Weeb's cleric. Again, Weeb's already died a few times, actually. This was despite the film girl's protests. Ranger killed cleric and then laughed at him and called his build pathetic. This pissed off Weeb. The two began to argue in real life until Film Girl Club firmly told them to cut it out and that this is weird. In-game flirtation, it's getting annoying, and she was simply not interested in either of these guys. Weeb just kind of hung his head in shame, and Gamer Club guy actually stormed out of the game shop. DM decided to end the Bro, no, really? You decided to end the session? Wonder why? I asked Film Club Girl, who will be continually referred to as FCG throughout this, because acronym. Anyway, I asked FCG how she was doing, and she said she's doing better. She feels bad about having to make a scene like that, but it was just getting out of hand. That dynamic was just too uncomfortable. She did tell me that Weeb texted her to apologize for his behavior throughout the campaign. She accepted his apology, but Gamer Club guy, that's another story. Apparently, he had texted her about how screwed up it was to reject him publicly like that and humiliate him at the same time, that he was always good to her and he didn't deserve this. The next session, Weeb was a lot more well-behaved. He rolled up a new fighter and was a cooperative, friendly player to all of us. I wish I could say the same about Gamer Club guy, though. He came back bitter and rude instead towards FCG. The entire session, he was spitefully asking the DM to punish her for innocuous little crap under the guise of being a stickler for the rules. He never did this to any of us, despite me and the other 3 players also bending rules, like disregarding arrow inventory until reminded. He would also be a douche to her in character. He justified this change by claiming that Ranger had gotten more serious about his monotheistic religion and found Druid's naturalistic paganism to be blasphemous. This behavior continued for session upon session. We'd all advocate for her against his crapshoot rules lawyering and more in-character hostile behavior that he would continue to escalate until Ranger basically saw Druid as the enemy. He eventually found that pretext to attack her after she found a magic item with religious significance to both the Druid and the Ranger. He attacked her at night while all of us were taking a long rest. I remember asking him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "She is a filthy pagan and is trying to usurp his god's holy magical item." We all try to wake up, but Ranger says, "Stop metagaming. You wouldn't hear this. I'm quiet as a mouse." So the DM has us roll perception against his perception at advantage, to which unfortunately, he wins. Wait, perception against perception? Bro, you don't look for someone by testing how good they look for stuff. Well, it's perception versus stealth. What are you, DM? Stupid? They have a PvP in which the Dungeon Master refuses to even let us roll perception again during this long fight to hear the dang blades clanking and spells going off.
We're your friends, fool. Trust me, you don't want to meet them. If they were here, you'd be dead already. A lot of faith, but no one can save you now. Even if I don't kill you, soon they're gonna come busting in here. I bet they're already getting their weapons, getting ready to take you down.
Unfortunately, Ranger wins the battle and Gamer Club guy starts cheering in the middle of the game shop like a total jerk. But unfortunately, that's not even the worst part. After she is on the ground, he says, "Before she rolls a single death save, I pull down my pen." It was only a matter of time. Only a matter of time. My eyes widened. I was in shock. Weep says, "Dude, shut up." And me and another player also laid into him. But this dude just shrugs and says, "It's what my character would do," and then finishes describing the disgusting things he does to her character. And the DM, he's just sitting there like a dolt. FCG gets up and says she's leaving. Me, Weeb, and the other player try to follow her, but she told us just not to. We respected that wish, and the DM says, "Yeah, you went a bit too far. Let's end the session there, and we'll retcon the whole thing next week." Weeb told DM that he refuses to play with that piece of crap, and we all agreed. Obviously, Gamer Club guy got super offended and accused Weeb of just saying that because he's a simp for her and the rest of us are apparently betas. He also just called FCG an oversensitive C word and just said, "I'm just playing true to my character." What a liar. It really took all my strength not to just knock him out. DM tried to keep saying, "Let's just wait till next week to talk about this." I just shook my head and left. DM was really disappointed in me. He never was good at conflict resolution, but like, come on. I texted FCG to ask how she was feeling. After we talked a bit about said feelings, she said she was fine, but she's not coming back to that game, even if we kick him out. She doesn't want to take the chance of running into him again. He apparently texted her a bunch of angry, sexist messages, calling her every slur in the book, and weird, angry messages about how ungrateful she was. Now he'd treat her right and satisfy her. She blocked him though, and her parents have already bought some top-notch home security in response. W parents. The next day, we tell the game store owner what happened. He banned Gamer Club guy from the shop. But 2 weeks later, she actually came back to the game store. Since Gamer Club guy was banned from the store, she feels more comfortable returning, and we continue playing the game without Gamer Club guy, and honestly, I haven't spoken to him since. Well, on the bright side, I'm glad at least Mr. Age Gap got a little bit better. This whole thing just reeks of alpha male dating culture. We see this all the time in those street interviews. When dudes get challenged in those, they usually cut out the footage. But when they don't, you can see them get visibly pissed off. And this is like that, in the D&D sense, which makes it even funnier. But look, if you go through this situation, it's not that funny. It just sucks. I wouldn't blame this lady for dropping the game entirely. I know I would. Hey, that's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed this episode, you might enjoy an oldie from a while back with another anime waifu type thing. It's linked in the cards. But hey, if you guys enjoyed this episode, then please do leave a like. If you want to get notified right as new stuff comes out, you can subscribe to Crispy's Tavern and hit the bell icon. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can think of a comment, leave the comment Incel versus Simp to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Sending stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, it asks like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Farewell.